Hello and welcome, you guys. I hope everyone's doing really, really well. I know I am. I just finished one of my exams at school, and now I think I'm gonna film this, and then I'm gonna have a couple beers, and it's gonna be a good day. I filmed this video before, but I ended up deleting it somehow. So this is part two of the same video, I guess. This over here is Peperomia obustifolia. It's in the Piperaceae family, same as my the silver ripple peperomia video I did earlier. I think that was 2 videos back, and this is just the variegated variety. So this over here is Peperomia obustifolia variegata, or the baby rubber plant. I think it's likened to that name because it's similar to the Ficus elastica, or the indoor rubber plant, and I think a lot of people see familiarity between the two. So this is just a really interesting little houseplant. It's little right now, but you know what? They can get quite large actually. They can get up to 3.5 feet in height and a little bit wider in spread if you really let them get to that point. But it's kind of hard to replicate the conditions that these guys like here in northern North America. They are native to the Caribbean. They're native to the island of Hispaniola, which is Haiti and Dominican Republic. They're also native to southern reaches of Mexico. They're native to Florida, anywhere from Lake Okeechobee down southward into the Everglades, as well as a few of the Cayman Islands and the US Virgin Islands, and they've been naturalized in lots of parts of Central America too. So this here, it's kind of, I almost want to call it a succulent plant. It does have a pretty good water storing capacity. It doesn't, it likes to be dry. It likes to have soils that are a little bit more aerated, a little bit more fibrous in nature. It's not a heavy feeder at all. I recommend adding a lot of perlite into your growing mix if you're growing a lot of these, just because it really aids in aeration and it really improves the capillary air within the soil. So a couple of things I really want to say about this plant is it does have this really interesting bloom. I know a lot of people say it's more of like a nondescript kind of not very showy bloom because it's white and green in color, but I think it's nice. It's a flower spike. It looks very similar to the inside of a spadix. If you've seen like the inside of the peace lily flower, that's kind of what the flower on this guy looks like too. It has an alternate leaf arrangement to it. It produces side shoots as it matures. It has this really interesting rippling, undulating margin to it, a very entire margin, and an upward cupping leaf. They have a thick cuticle, so this plant here is somewhat glossy, and it's just a really nice little showy plant. So I think this here is a really good plant for a beginner gardener, just because it has pretty low maintenance water needs and it likes filtered indoor light that's not very strong. So for that reason there, I think it's actually quite an easy plant to grow for many growers that don't have specialized equipment or good lighting situations within their houses. It doesn't require any excess um, humidity. You don't need a humidifier around these guys. They tend to do fare quite well. And yeah, I do think that, like, I have a bit of a saying with these things. I've killed these before when I started growing them. I think that they're the easiest to kill, easiest plant to grow. And by that I mean if you overwater them once, they're not very forgiving and they will tend to rot on you. So that's not very fun. Um, it's a pretty slow growing plant, so don't expect this to really bulk up in size until you've had it for at least a few years. You can divide them through node cuttings. I recommend leaving about 2 nodes if you want to regenerate the mother plant. And don't expect to get too many blooms on these guys indoors. It's kind of hard to replicate their natural environment growing conditions. You can get these in really nice dark green singular color varieties as well. There's almost one that's kind of like a bluish nephrite jade green color. That one's really pretty too. Some places I really recommend buying these. They seem to be really common in Asian culture. So my local Chinatown has just really, really good plant shops, and they sell these, and they are just immaculate looking. I got this one over here from 99 Nursery, which is a good nursery where I live. If you're in the Metro Vancouver area, Jack Huey's the guy that owns the place. It's just really friendly staff, good environment there. I'm not sponsored by them. I just really like shopping there because they have a good selection of tropicals, so I recommend that place. And yeah, this here doesn't really need any pruning. I recommend when you're repotting to plant it a little bit less deeply than they would in a nursery, just with the propagation. They tend to submerge the lowest most leaf just to produce adventitious roots. But I don't recommend planting it this deeply. It just kind of brings way to rot problems and increases its susceptibility to growing mold. So, what's another thing I should say? The active growing season of this plant's a little later. I find it tends to grow quickest in October, November, December, when people here in North America tend to up their heating systems indoors. This plant tends to compensate by giving you a lot of growth. It grows really quickly in comparison to when there's cold weather or a cold environment inside the house, when you have a lot of supplemental heating. Yeah, so it's in the Piperaceae family, or the true peppers. Um, It likes to be a little bit pot bound. I recommend waiting a few days in between waterings. I water this guy every Friday. Sometimes it doesn't even need water. Recommend keeping it very light to touch. I don't recommend oversaturating the soil because then they rot. You can save this. Maybe I'll make a video on one of these that I've effed up and try to show you how to save them and regenerate them. But this one seems to be doing pretty well so far. No problems. Another thing I will readily admit though is the leaves do break quite easily, so when you transport them from your house, if they get even a little bit of scratching, you'll notice they get a little bit of necrotic tissue. Perfectly normal, it goes away with new growth. New growth regenerates and kind of takes over, and then the plant has a better appearance. But with that said, it just kind of manifests itself on older leaves, just something to be mindful of from an aesthetic point of view. This plant over here is a spider mite magnet. So if you have problems with spider mites, maybe not the best plant to grow in your indoor houseplant collection. But I just think it's a really interesting plant. I think everyone should become well acquainted with it, especially the variegated variety. It almost reminds me of like the Ficus triangularis with its variegation of the marble bush. Just really, really beautiful, striking coloration to it. It's not edible. I just think it's important to mention that. Sorry, my hand's getting really tired from holding the camera. Yeah, so I hope you guys are all having a really wonderful day. I'll get my finger out of the way there. And just stay blessed. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Yeah. I have a lot of fun with these videos, and definitely let me know if there's anything in particular you guys want to see. Yeah. Yeah. Stay healthy, you guys. See you later.